I see you have a lot of Bernie Sanders swag in the background. Is that
Yeah.
your guy?
Oh, I love Bernie. Yeah, for sure.
I love Bernie too.
Yeah, Bernie was that was a beautiful dream. That was kind of an American dream that died there. It almost came true, didn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it was a very long shot. I always told the people that watch me, like, look, this is very likely not going to happen. I think that it is definitely a long shot, regardless of how successful he was or how popular he is, how popular his policies are, like Medicare for all, for example. Regardless of all that, I just always was skeptical because I just assumed that every institution, every legitimate institution, legacy publishers, all of that, would do everything they can to, at the very least, make it seem like he was bad.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
But he came so close, and then it was kind of almost bizarre how Joe Biden seemed out, like he was done, and then all of a sudden, what was it like? North Carolina was just this total
No,
shift.
South Carolina.
Oh, South Carolina.
Um, yeah, the South Carolina primary is actually pretty significant in the
Mm,
Democratic primaries as a whole.
mm,
It's a very weird process that we have in the Democratic primaries where the first state you look at is Iowa. They pride themselves on being the first state, and they have a caucus system, which is really awful. I'm not going to get into it. It's a super outdated way of doing it, things, and it's undemocratic regardless. But it's basically Iowa, which is 92% white, so not reflective of the rest of the United States at all.
mm,
That really is like the first big race, and then it's Nevada, which is very diverse and definitely more representative of the demographics of the United States. And then you move. Oh, sorry, Iowa, and then wait, I'm messing it up. It's Iowa, New
New
Hampshire,
Hampshire. Yeah.
and then Nevada. Sorry, and New Hampshire is very white as well. And then Nevada, and then you get to South Carolina. And South Carolina, especially on the Democratic side, the South Carolina voter profile for the Democratic Party is super unrepresentative of the rest of the American demographics as well. So we have like a very interesting way of doing things in the Democratic Party, but the South Carolina primary is the most important one because it is predominantly, overwhelmingly black.
mm,
And the black voting bloc is the most significant voting bloc that most consistently and reliably votes Democratic in the generals.
mm,
So, for example, Representative Jim Clyburn is regarded as the kingmaker because of that.
mm,
Anyone who he endorses ends up becoming the president. So that's how Joe Biden really won. He
Mm.
failed disastrously in the first three competitions, and it seemed like he was out, but he kept saying, wait till South Carolina, wait till South Carolina. And it was expected that he was going to win South Carolina for sure, no matter what, right? Because people wanted to vote for him in South Carolina. He always looked to be polling by a wide margin in South Carolina. And then when he did win, there was a 3-day streak of just nonstop coverage. The underdog is back. Joe Biden, this guy who's been in politics for like 50 years, and it was Obama's vice president, was now the underdog. And just a sea of endless positive coverage about Joe Biden's chances, followed up by virtually every single incumbent that was in the race that still had a shot, or not incumbent, sorry, virtually every single other primary opponent that had a shot, dropping out and endorsing it before Super Tuesday, which then really stacked the deck against Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren staying in the race as well. Also sullied the progressive base by separating the progressive base. And that's how you got Joe Biden victory after victory in most states that he hadn't even been to yet. In California, he lost, but he didn't even have an office. Like he had one office that was padlocked that no one had even stepped into in months. He went to Virginia once and he won in overwhelming numbers. And part of that is because people were aware of him and they wanted a safe choice, and the media kept portraying him as the safe choice and the one that will beat Donald Trump.
Well,
And
let me ask you as a progressive, do you think that Bernie Sanders could beat Trump? And do you think defeating Trump is more important than putting out a progressive that may lose? Where I think Joe has a pretty solid chance now, it looks like, of defeating Trump. What do you think's more important? A Bernie, a risky Bernie, or a solid Joe?
well, that's the thing. I don't think Bernie is risky. I
Hmm.
don't think Bernie was risky at all. It's how they were portraying Bernie that made him risky. I mean, think about it.
Yeah,
You
but that
like
makes
Bernie
him
Sanders,
risky.
right? Well, well, then the problem there is not necessarily Bernie Sanders being a risky candidate in and of itself,
It's the
but
system.
But it,
rather the media's unwillingness to cover him
Yeah.
yeah,
in
but
a
it's still,
fair manner.
but that's still, you can't ignore that, right? Because just imagine his own people. Like he can't even galvanize his own side of the aisle because of all these issues of wealth and equality, wealth equality. So, like, just imagine how stacked that we would be against him ultimately if with both sides of interested wealth stacked against Bernie. It would have been. I mean, how could you overcome that? That would be incredible.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. I think that's a legitimate fear that I had if Bernie was to become the candidate, even though that was a long shot. I was legitimately concerned with like all of these liberal outlets all of a sudden attacking the Democratic candidate,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or even fighting back against them in a similar capacity to how Jeremy Corbyn had a sea of coverage, anti Jeremy Corbyn coverage and anti Labor Party coverage by all accounts of the media, with only the Guardian endorsing him, but endorsing him with concern. Um, Meanwhile, the Tories were openly both anti-Semitic and racist and horrible. They put up a statue of Nancy Astor, who once famously said that Hitler had the right idea about Jews. In the middle of all of this, Jeremy Corbyn is anti-Semitic coverage. The Tories, the Conservative Party, literally put up a statue of a woman who said that, and they were still like, nope, Jeremy Corbyn is anti-Semitic, and that is, in my opinion, that is definitely people who are in positions of power trying to protect their bottom line, trying to protect the current financial situation that they're in. It's understandable. That's what the purpose of the media is. That's what the purpose of all of these like legitimate institutions are. In a way, it's to preserve order, right? Because if you were to upend the entire system, then that could be a little chaotic, and it definitely wouldn't be great for people in positions of power who have made a lot of money off the status quo. So
But when
the similar thing could definitely happen to Bernie Sanders as well, and I was fearful of that.